Special coverage on the Railway Minister's first rail budget. What we'll do right now is explain to you the big challenges that face Narendra Modi when he and Sadananda Gowda sit and put together the numbers for the budget. What are the financial challenges and what can the Railway Minister really do? Let's try and understand that this morning. Here are some of the key challenges, especially given the poor state of finances of the railways. Here are some of the problems that Sadananda Gowda faces. Resolving the fund crunch. The Indian Railways needs a massive investment of 20 trillion rupees in investment by 2020. Where is this money going to come from? It clearly is not available in India. Bringing profit-seeking private players, yet keeping fares affordable. Also, when private players come in, they'll need to know how much money can they make. They can't make money in a way that things become costly and the railways become unaffordable for the Aam Aadmi. That won't go down well for Modi. Building new tracks for high-speed trains that cost a whopping 8 crore rupees per kilometer, and also whether high-speed trains are actually what India needs, because you've got other problems to deal with. It's a great idea. It sounds fascinating to have a bullet train like Japan and China, but is that what India needs? Setting up a rail tariff authority for rationalization of fares, essentially doing to fares what they've done with petrol, making it market linked. Now that would be a great idea if Narendra Modi can do it. Will they actually take a step in that direction? Depoliticizing the Indian railways, improving the slothful work culture that cripples everything the railways does at present. Focus on 12,000 unmanned level crossings, which are a huge security nightmare, causing several of the accidents that happen every year. Rebooting freight corridor projects, reducing the price of freight. Earlier, 90% of India's freight was transported across railways. That's now down to a third. Can Modi change that? Those are the big challenges. Here are the promises that Narendra Modi has made in his vision document, in the BJP's manifesto, also in the President's address to Parliament. A diamond quadrilateral of high-speed trains, strategic rail network to connect the hinterland to the ports. That's important, especially given a coastal state like Gujarat, connecting the ports with the hinterland. An integrated transport project linking road, rail and waterways. Agriculture rail network for perishable agricultural products to take them from the farmer into the market. A tourist rail, including a pilgrimage rail to places like to places up in the hills, so that people can travel all across the country. Rail modernization, induction of state-of-the-art technology, that again is a very important priority for Modi, in developing skilled human resources for the railways. I want to go across now to my colleague Javed Ansari. He's joining us from Vijay Chowk this morning. He's got former Railway Minister Dinesh Trivedi with him, and also Shantaram Naik. Javed, what are the expectations Dinesh Trivedi has? He lost his job after a railway budget. What does he make of Gowda's first budget, Javed?
Let me ask him that. Dinesh ji, some time back you were the railway minister and you were the first person to moot this proposal for a hike and you lost your job. What must your successor be thinking of? What more can we expect from him?
See, I think we will be misleading ourselves if we only talk about the hike. Hike is not the end of the journey. Hike is one of the process. But having said that, let me tell you, Indian Railways and the passengers can take no more hikes. Freight is counterproductive, and passengers, I think the hike has gone beyond their head. What we personally, I feel, need is a generational change. We have to get out of this small things, that this increase, new train, doubling. We have got to change entirely, a generational change, and have a budget, not for 1 year. Like my budget was for 5 years. We must have a national rail policy and we must have a consensus of all the party. Otherwise, I'm afraid this Jersey cow we are collectively going to kill, and this will be the end of our development. Overall GDP also will fall, because I strongly believe that rail can provide 2.5% addition to the GDP.
But he's talked of a futuristic rail. He's talking of bullet trains. Is that what the doctor orders for the Indian Railways?
I think if you have cancer in the stomach, lipsticks and other things, whether it is for men or women, uh, cosmetics, they would come later on. There is a need for that. And as far as I am concerned, you have got to have strengthen your foundation, then only talk about a 100-story or 300-story building. At the moment, the need of the hour is strengthen the foundation which is crumbling. There is, I am also for high speed, certainly. We must have in a modern society. But before we have, let's have a normal, dignified way of commuting.
Mr. Shantaram Naik, the current government blames the UPS. It says that you all have bequeathed to them a whole set of problems and much of the ills that they've had to, they've had to take this tough decision of hiking fares because you were afraid. Your government was afraid.
Why have they chosen to come through back doors when session was closed by? And they always criticize our policies of ordinance, issuing ordinance. They used to make hue and cry, and they have now come with the ordinance for hiking the fares. Secondly, now the stress appears to be they want to show something that they have done. They are doing something new, and they are hanging on bullet train, and they want to start it from Ahmedabad to Bombay. Have they done survey themselves? Whatever surveys were done was during our regimes. He has done, earlier ministers have done. Have they done any fresh survey on their own to see the viability of bullet trains? Secondly, see, there were other experiments tried during our regime. Electric multiple unit, you must be knowing those. Those type of trains increases speed a bit, but they are rational. Today, I doubt whether we can digest bullet trains with that speed.
So you're saying that the Congress party doesn't agree with this idea?
I am not saying. Today's situation, after our policy what? After survey, physical survey is done, and that found to be correct and properly, that passengers can take it, trains can take it, railways can take it, then we would have gone. The decision was not taken by our government so far.
One last question, Dinesh Bhai. If you were in Sadananda Gowda's place and now you're wiser in hindsight, what would you do?
No, I think it is comprehensive. And I have said the same thing, that we need to depoliticize the Indian Railways. Even when I was the Rail Mantri, I had mentioned that. With the change of a railway minister, of the change of a government, you don't change your railway policy because we are far behind. 20 years back, China was 15 years behind us. And we have to understand this is a great asset, and collectively we'll have to look after this asset and don't politicize railways. It is like our defense, this is like our foreign policy. Unless and until you have a strong railway network which will carry a lot of freight, you cannot grow even on your GDP. You cannot give employment. You cannot even contain inflation, because it is a railway which has to carry bulk commodities, vegetables, food items, fuel. Railway is the backbone of any civilized country's progress.
So, Rahul, the former railways minister is absolutely clear, and we can expect that the big bang announcement that is expected on bullet trains is not likely to find favor either with the Congress or the Trinamool Congress.
Okay, that's interesting. And since Modi has made this such an important part of what he hopes to achieve, and Javed will come back to you when you get more guests at Vijay Chowk. But I want to ask Dr. Lahiri first. And I want to introduce Nupur Sharma. She works with the BJP. I also want to introduce Abid Rasool Khan from the Congress. But Dr. Lahiri, how much does India really need bullet trains? Should that be a priority? Modi says dream big, and that's why we need the railways. But is a speed train what the railways really needs?
Rahul, I think yes, but we have to be cautious.
Just fix the current railway system first.
But let me allow me to say a little bit about China. I'm delighted that you're showing China all the time. See, China is at least 25 years junior to us, if not 50 years junior to us in railways. We started the railways in 1853. They started in 1876. I think it was Jardine Matheson who started 1/3 of a kilometer. and they ripped it apart. The Chinese said this fire-breathing dragon, one man got run over. So that was the end of it. And it's only in 1898, after the Treaty of Shimonoseki, that they started. Now China has more than 105,000 kilometers, of which about more than 10% is high-speed train. But high-speed train, we have to be careful. Firstly, high-speed trains, you can't have low fares. So it will not be the common man, it will be the business traveler who will be going. It won't stop in intermediate stations. So you'll have to choose modal points which are important. Delhi, Mumbai, where there will be lots of travelers going. Second, you can't run freight trains in that. These are dedicated corridors. So the train line will be only
Sure, but they cost a lot of money, 8 crore rupees per kilometer.
And in China also there are
Is it even worth making that investment in high-speed trains?
It is, because it will provide a competition to air travel. So if you can travel from Delhi to Mumbai...
No, but why focus on the rich person? From Modi's perspective, I mean, I would love for there to be fast trains, Dr. Vermani, but from the perspective of Modi's core voter, the one who wins the election, not the one who's going to be traveling on the fast train, but the real Aam Aadmi, he'd like cleanliness. You heard from those reactions. He wants good food, he wants better services. That's essentially what he wants Modi to fix.
See, the problem is we see the glamour. I mean, even in China, the trains are running partly empty because it's too expensive. There they actually price it to cost much more than in India. So they've hiked up the rates for those trains and not many people can afford it. So there is a real issue there. We have to look at both the glamorous side, which is good. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. It gives incentives, it makes you feel pride, which is very good in a national development sense. But then you also have to look at the cost very
if they're
carefully.
going half empty or mostly empty, if they cost as much money as they do, should we be spending limited resources on trying to pursue a dream when we should be fixing nuts and bolts first?
See, I actually whatever this discussion is happening, I see it in two phases. One is certainly that the budget is not going to be all about only high speed and bullet trains.
No, but that's what he speaks about most often.
That's a vision he has, and you have to respect that at least somebody's thinking that far. Until I heard the previous railway minister speak, we have a cancerous stomach. You just can't keep thinking regressive. The point is, only if you dream big, if you wish for 100%, will you get an 85-90%. That's the first point. Secondly,
no, but Dr. Vermani says the rich people are the ones who will be traveling on those trains, the poor can't.
That's what I'm trying to say. The budget is not going to be solely high speed and bullet trains. Whatever little we know, we have to wait for the budget to come out. Whatever little we know, he has spoken about upgrading safety, upgrading the railway stations, upgrading the services in the trains, and the so-called hike, which
these are things that we've heard about ad nauseum. Every railway minister speaks about...
But he doesn't do it.
That's what I'm saying. Nothing happens.
There is a
Can the Modi and Gowda combine do, Mr. Rana, what other ministers promised but didn't deliver on?
Yes.
How?
They can. It will take time, but they can. First thing is, as I said, that all these high-speed projects are not financially viable all over the world, number one. Number two, however, there are indirect benefits, economic benefits, technology benefits. A lot of technology will come, pride benefits, lot of benefits. It's like space research or sending the satellite to the moon and all. There are no economic and financial economic also. Yet, there is indirect benefits like technology.
So is it worth pursuing for the reason of pride? Let me ask the Congress representative on the show, Abid Rasool Khan. Previous ministers and the Congress government was blamed for not dreaming big, for not having a vision. Now, it might cost a lot of money, but at least Narendra Modi has a vision. He wants to push high-speed trains. He wants India to have a bullet train. Now, would you not think that's a good idea? That's not the only priority, as Nupur keeps stressing. Amongst a whole host of priorities, if he's pushing this as a vision, would the Congress support it? Or would you say this is anti-Aam Aadmi?
Rahul, the fact is that the dreams which were woven around the people of India during the elections, now one after the other, they are going bust and people are waking up to the realities. You have seen about 15 days back, there was a hike of 14.2% when the budget is to be presented about 15 days later. It could have been a part of the budget, but just to avoid the media and the people's glare, it was put before, about 15 days before the budget. Fine, that is okay. But the point about the bullet trains and about the high-speed trains, we have definitely no objection to it, implementing the project, but you have to understand that the Indian commuters on the railways are not just the rich people or the software crowd. It is the common man which predominantly uses the railways for their livelihood, for their day-to-day earnings, for reaching their place of destination. So we have to take care of them. We have to understand their requirements, and
okay, the Congress is already blaming Narendra Modi for pandering to the rich even before we have the first high-speed rail network online. And this, Dr. Virmani, will happen very frequently. The Congress will say, here's a chief minister who's now become prime minister who's catering to the rich.
See, the positive side is, for example, one way to do it would be to say, okay, we'll allow private and FDI. So government is not taking responsibility. So it's the vision. I mean, it's how you implement it is the key. It's not. It's good in, like he said, like the former chairman said. You know, a vision is good as long as I, as taxpayer, don't have to fund losses. I'm quite happy with it. I don't mind.
Rahul,
if the private sector funds it, it's great.
That was my second point, because if we are allowing. If you're looking at FDI and not compromising, say, rail operations or safety operations, then I think there is no harm. And why not open up your mind? Because in the 12th five-year plan, the PPP, wherein we have actually invited private investment to come into this sector, has already happened. It's nothing new.
But it's failed so far. The PPP model in the railways from Mamata Banerjee's budget
policy, because I heard Mr.
has failed. They said we'll give land out. We'll have projects created over here. They haven't been able to do that. But you've seen in airport projects, once it's been handed over to the private sector, the land around, for example, the Delhi airport has now got all these hotels. The same was to happen with the railways. It never did.
But Rahul, the most important thing in China. So in China, they abolished the Ministry of Railways. Now it's the China Railway Corporation, a state-owned company.
Should we do the same in India?
They hear what is happening. There's so much resistance. In PPP, I think the organizational structure of the railways, how we should run it, it was done by the Brits long time ago, the Ministry of Railways. Do we need a Ministry of Railways even now? I don't know. And coming back to high-speed train, I think that it will cater to the rich people. I don't think there is anything wrong with that, as long as the Aam Aadmi is not made to pay for it. Yes. If rich people want high-speed trains
will say,
and high-speed trains pay for themselves, what is wrong?
Sure, but the Aam Aadmi will say that things need to change and improve for him. If things improve for him as well, then he might not grudge the high-speed railways. But if things don't improve for him, and you've got these swanky trains running on dedicated corridors, then the Aam Aadmi might have a problem.
What I'm sensing from what you're saying and what Mr. Khan just said is that every train is going to become a bullet train. No, that's not true. The point is you pay for what you actually, the service you want to have. So if you have a high-speed train, you pay for it. If you have a normal train, even that is something that Mr. Modi and the railway minister's budget is actually looking to upgrade.
With respect to Mr. Rana, who was the former chairman of the railway boards, the railways is slothful, overstuffed, hugely bureaucratic, not efficient. So can Modi, I'm coming back to you and I'll get you to answer that question. Can Modi and Sadananda Gowda change that? Make the railways more efficient, improve the work culture. He talks about it, can he deliver? Okay, lots of excitement, lots of anticipation. However, it remains to be seen to what extent can Modi and Gowda live up to that. Atul Anjan from the CPI now joins us on this broadcast. Mr. Anjan, welcome. We were discussing before you came in the idea of high-speed railways and whether that is the real dream that Modi should be pursuing. There's one argument which says that someone needs to have a vision and he must push that vision because it's a big idea. The Congress, though, was arguing that there's no need to try and push the rich person's dream, first try and fix the problems of the poor person. Would you support the idea of a super fast train, sir?
Rahul ji, any better idea to improve the railway, its efficiency, its modernization will be welcome. Railway is the biggest PSU of the world, public sector undertaking, and it caters 121 crore people's aspirations, and it must be modern, it must be fast, it must be technology driven, it must be equipped with the most modern technology, it must innovate itself with the scientific and technological revolution STR, and if it doesn't do it, then I think it will lose its gravity. Just putting people from one place to another place, which can go, one person can go in 4 hours and you are taking in 10 hours, in this era of science and technology, it means that you are very much backward. You require updating, and hence I think any move in the railway ministry that should be welcome. But at the same time, you cannot push the pressure on the public. You cannot push the pressure by increasing the price. In fact, the system which is with you, with its the money at its disposal, the land at its disposal, the places at its disposal, you
no, but
can
I actually
manage it
disagree with
you
what you're
can govern.
suggesting. And this is based purely on what we are hearing from people out on railway stations, the real man who's traveling. They don't seem as averse to the idea of a hike as our politicians do. The Congress and the left obviously jumping up and down to score political brownie points.